All right, so today we're diving deep into a situation that so many teachers, I think, can relate to in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a teacher who reached out to us. She had this kind of awkward moment in her classroom,
Yeah,
and it really brings up a lot of questions about, how to handle uh, compliments and boundaries in a classroom setting today.
absolutely.
And it all started with this really simple interaction that I think we've all been in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a year 7 student, right? And this kid's getting teased a little bit about his new glasses.
Right.
And so she does what I think any good teacher would do. She tries to step in and boost his confidence,
Yeah,
give him a little compliment.
exactly.
Because she tells him, very handsome and smart,
Hmm.
just trying to be nice.
Yeah, just trying to be encouraging.
But here's where things take a turn, right? The student immediately claps back with, thanks, miss, but I have a girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
So suddenly, what seemed like a simple compliment becomes this loaded moment.
Oh, yeah, and I can definitely see how that would throw a teacher off. Especially with year sevens, they're at that age where they're so self-conscious and figuring things out. Like anything, even a well-meaning compliment can be misinterpreted.
Right. It makes you realize that it's not just the words themselves, but the whole context.
Exactly.
Like, imagine if she'd said that in the staff room to a colleague. It would have been totally different.
Totally different. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's all about context. In a classroom, there's this inherent power dynamic between the teacher and
So,
student.
yeah, right. Absolutely.
And then you layer on top of that the fact that these are adolescents
Right.
who are already navigating all these complex social cues and their own developing sense of identity. So even a seemingly harmless compliment can be misconstrued. And
Right.
it makes you realize how delicate those interactions can be.
Absolutely. And it's not just in schools, is it? I mean, you hear stories about this kind of thing happening in workplaces all the time.
Right.
Like someone gives a compliment that they intend to be completely harmless,
Mm.
and then suddenly they're in hot water.
Yeah.
It feels like we're living in this era of hypersensitivity where everyone's walking on eggshells.
You're not wrong. I think there's definitely a heightened awareness now about power dynamics and the potential for things to be misconstrued.
Right.
I mean, what might have been considered totally normal or even expected a generation ago is now being looked at through a completely different lens.
Yeah. It's a whole new ballgame.
It is, and it's something we all have to navigate carefully.
For sure. Now, this teacher specifically mentioned that she's a lesbian and has a female partner.
Right.
And she was wondering if that added another layer of complexity to the situation.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can understand her concern. Like, even though her intentions were clearly innocent,
Oh, absolutely.
there's always that possibility that someone might misinterpret it because of her own identity. It's like, unfortunately, she has to be extra careful in a way that maybe some other teachers wouldn't have to.
It's a tough spot to be in.
It is, and it just highlights how all of our individual identities and experiences can impact how we interact with the world.
Okay, so back to the classroom.
Yeah.
This teacher, feeling that awkwardness from the student, tries to clarify things.
Okay.
She's like, I know I'm not flirting with you,
Oh, boy.
but in hindsight, do you think that was the right move?
Well, it's understandable that she wanted to clear the air.
Yeah.
But sometimes, trying to over-explain or defend yourself can make things even worse, especially with middle schoolers.
Oh, yeah.
They're already hyper aware of everything, so drawing more attention to it just amplifies the situation, right?
Right.
Like, it's probably going to make everyone even more uncomfortable. It's like that feeling when you trip and fall, and then you try to act cool, but it just makes it way more awkward.
Totally. I can just picture the other kids like all ears perking up and whispers starting.
Exactly.
So what would have been a better approach?
I think sometimes a simpler approach is more effective. Like, instead of focusing on the handsome part, which obviously created that awkwardness,
Yeah.
she could have just shifted the focus to the glasses themselves. Something like, those glasses really help you see the board better, don't they? Something like that.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So instead of commenting on his appearance directly, she's focusing on the practical benefit of the glasses.
Exactly.
It's still a positive comment, but it totally sidesteps that whole potential for misinterpretation.
That's the idea.
And it's something that other teachers listening can actually use in their own classrooms.
Definitely. It's a good strategy to have in your back pocket.
Now, what I found really interesting is that one of the student's friends actually jumped in to clarify the teacher's intention.
Oh, interesting.
It's like he sensed that things were getting a little weird, and he wanted to make sure everyone understood that the teacher wasn't, coming on to his friend.
That's amazing.
It shows how powerful peer dynamics are, especially at that age. they can really influence how a message is received.
Totally. And I think it probably helped to diffuse the tension and reinforce that the compliment was genuine.
Yeah, like, my friend's got a girlfriend, miss. Chill out.
Exactly. And that's something we often forget, right? The role that peers play in shaping these interactions. It's not just a one-way street between teacher and student.
Right. Now, in the end, the teacher managed to diffuse the whole situation by complimenting everyone.
Good for her.
Just emphasizing that, everyone in the class is awesome in their own way, which is a great takeaway, I
Yeah,
think.
for sure.
Creating that inclusive, positive environment can go a long way in preventing these kinds of moments from escalating.
Absolutely. It's all about balance, right?
Yeah.
Being encouraging and supportive, but also maintaining those professional boundaries. It's not always easy.
So this specific situation really gets at a bigger question that's relevant for all educators today.
Mm.
How do you navigate this increasingly complex world of communication, especially when it comes to compliments and the potential for misinterpretations?
It's the million-dollar question, and it's something that I think all educators are grappling with, especially in today's world.
Totally.
It requires being really aware of social dynamics, understanding how different generations communicate, and honestly, just being really tuned in to what's considered appropriate in today's society. It's a lot to juggle.
It is. But this deep dive has shown us that with a little mindfulness, it's definitely possible.
Right, by thinking about our language, being aware of the context, and fostering that positive and inclusive environment, teachers can handle these tricky situations with grace and confidence.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thank you.
So to all the teachers out there listening, keep up the great work.
You're doing amazing things.
And remember, you're not alone in navigating these complexities.
We're all in this together.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.